For our mid-morning edition of Arirang News, I'm Mark Broom. Let's jump straight into the day's headlines. Is it all unwinding? The North Korean leader says he no longer feels bound by a moratorium on missile tests and boasts of a new strategic weapon. Despite those remarks, President Trump says he still trusts Kim Jong-un is a man of his word. Paying respects to South Korea's fallen patriots. President Moon Jaein and his top aides dropped by the National Cemetery. We have details coming up. Plus, yet another day of turmoil in Hong Kong. Around 1 million people join a New Year's Day rally, only for it to quickly descend into some violent clashes. Our top story this morning then, President Moon Jaein has visited the Seoul National Cemetery. He did so this morning to pay tribute to the patriots buried there. For his first official schedule in 2020, President Moon wrote in the guest book that he will work to make real changes to the nation this year. Accompanying President Moon were Prime Minister Lee, as well as his top presidential aides. He was also joined by his newly appointed Justice Minister, Choo Mi-ae. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has visited the Gumsusan Palace of the Sun in Pyongyang to pay his respects to his late father and former leader Kim Jong-il, as well as his grandfather and the regime's founder Kim Il-sung. Kim Jong-un's first outing of the new year was reported on Thursday by the North's state-run Korean Central News Agency. According to the report, he was joined by his top aides, including North Korea's number 2, Choi Ryong-hae. They reportedly reaffirmed their vow to raise the status of the socialist power, especially as this year marks the 75th anniversary of the establishment of the ruling Workers' Party in North Korea. Apart from 2018, the North Korean leader has visited the mausoleum every year since 2013. Now, instead of airing a New Year's address by its leader, North Korea released a 1-hour-long video on Wednesday about the recent ruling party gathering that was held in Pyongyang. During that session, Kim Jong-un stressed the regime will continue developing a new tactical weapon and called for a strengthening of self-reliance to withstand protracted international sanctions against his regime. Oh Jung-hee reports.
The new path that the North has mentioned throughout last year seems to be out, achieving self-supported economic development while strengthening its military power. On Wednesday, January 1st, North Korea released the results of its ruling Workers' Party Central Committee's plenary session, which took place over the last 4 days. The announcement comes as a replacement for Kim Jong-un's New Year's address for the first time since he took power in 2012. The North hinted that it may break its moratorium on weapons tests. Kim Jong-un said at the meeting that there's no reason for it to be shackled to its own promise of halting nuclear and ICBM tests anymore, because the U.S. has rather responded with military drills and brought new weaponry into South Korea.
Kim Jong-un affirmed that the world will soon see North Korea own a new tactical weapon. He declared that tactical weapons are essential for our national security and that we will continue developing them until the U.S. withdraws its hostile policies and there is solid peace on the Korean Peninsula.
There's no detailed explanation on what this new tactical weapon is, but it's highly likely to be an ICBM. Kim says that the North will always maintain a nuclear deterrent, but this will be leveled up or down in accordance with U.S. attitudes towards the regime. He also said that North Korea will withstand international sanctions through self-reliance.
Kim Jong-un said the current circumstances show there will be a prolonged confrontation with the U.S. It's a fact that we will have to live under hostile forces' sanctions, and therefore we have to further strengthen our inner force in a range of fields.
Kim urged the party to reorganize the country's economic foundations and systems and raise productivity. There was no special message towards South Korea. But this is because the North's ruling party gathering doesn't usually deal with inter-Korean relations. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea was quick to respond to North Korea's announcement. Seoul's unification ministry made it clear that the North should refrain from any kind of military action.
The government is paying attention to how the North mentions that we'll soon see it own a new tactical weapon. If the North puts this into action, it would not be helpful in denuclearization negotiations and establishing lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula.
South Korea and the US have stopped conducting large-scale joint military drills while the lines to nuclear dialogue remain open, however flimsy they are at the moment, though. However, the ministry highlighted that North Korea did not declare a suspension of its nuclear talks with Washington. Seoul is hoping the two sides' dialogue can resume soon. Now, despite North Korea's threat of having this new strategic weapon, the US is hopeful the North will live up to its pledge to denuclearize. Celebrating the new year at his extravagant Florida resort, President Trump said he believes the regime's leader is a man of his word. Kim Jong-un reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday he believes Kim Jong-un will honor his commitments on denuclearization. Speaking to reporters before heading into the New Year's party at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, President Trump mentioned his first summit with Kim Jong-un in Singapore back in June 2018 and said he thinks Kim Jong-un is a, quote, man of his word.
But he did sign a contract. He did sign an agreement talking about denuclearization, and that was signed, number one sentence, denuclearization. That was done in Singapore, and I think he's a man of his word, so we're going to find out, but I think he's a man of his word.
President Trump's comments come after Kim Jong-un said Pyongyang will introduce a new strategic weapon in the near future. The president repeated his previous comments that he and the North Korean leader have a very good relationship and said that they are each representing their own country. He also said he is aware of certain messages the regime is sending out about Christmas presents, but remained hopeful, saying he hopes the Christmas present is a beautiful vase. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also responded to the regime's mention of a new strategic weapon on Tuesday. During an interview with Fox News, Pompeo said he hopes North Korean leader Kim Jong-un makes the right decision by choosing peace and prosperity rather than conflict and war. The top diplomat also told CBS News that it would be very disappointing if Kim reneged on the promises made to President Trump, but added that Washington continues to hope that the regime's leader will live up to his commitments. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
President Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, says Washington should resume all military exercises with Seoul and hold congressional hearings on troop readiness in response to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's recent threats. Posting on Twitter on Wednesday, Bolton called on the US to fully resume all cancelled or scaled-down military drills in South Korea after Kim said he was no longer willing to abide by a ban on testing nuclear weapons. Bolton also questioned whether American troops on the Korean Peninsula are truly ready to fight tonight, referring to the motto of the US military here in South Korea. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has reiterated his commitment to prioritize the amendment of Japan's post-war pacifist constitution. Our Park Hee-jun has this report.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has vowed to promote major reforms to build a new era in Japan, specifically pointing to the need for constitutional revision. While highlighting the need for reforms ranging from education to social security in his New Year's statement on Wednesday, Abe said constitutional reform is his top priority. Throughout his time in power, Abe has been pushing to enhance Japan's defense capabilities, increasing defense spending by at least 10% since he was elected. But the conservative leader has yet to accomplish his main mission to amend Japan's post-war pacifist constitution, particularly Article 9, in which Japan denounces war and prohibits its military forces being deployed in overseas conflicts. Mentioning it for the first time since 2014, Abe is seen to have redeclared his commitment, with his term set to expire in September 2021. Regarding Japan's diplomacy, Abe said he will confront the turbulent changes in international affairs and open a new line of diplomacy. He added that he will protect the country's seas, territory, and airspace and continually correct Japan's security policies rather than being bound to convention. His remarks come amid territorial disputes with neighboring countries, including South Korea and China. Abe also expressed his hope for the successful hosting of this year's Tokyo Summer Olympics and Paralympics. He said he hopes it will be a wonderful event that excites children and allows them to dream about the future. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
Now back here in South Korea, President Moon Jaein has appointed former Democratic Party chief Choo Mi-ae as his new justice minister, raising anticipation of a speedy reform of the prosecution here. The Blue House said Choo's tenure began at midnight and the president will give her the letter of appointment this afternoon. The position had been vacant for 80 days following former Minister Jo Guk's resignation. Choo, a 5-term judge turned politician, had gone through a parliamentary confirmation hearing in December, but the hearings report wasn't adopted due to clashes between the rival parties. The appointment comes despite this, as it does not require parliamentary approval anyway. On the first day of 2020, an estimated 1 million people gathered on the streets of Hong Kong to continue their demand for democracy, among a whole other range of things. Once again, what started as a peaceful protest unfortunately quickly descended into chaos with violent clashes between demonstrators and riot police. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Yoon Jung-min. Jung-min, it seems as though 2020 has started in much the same vein as the second half of last year.
Yes, Mark. Hundreds of thousands of protesters took to the streets in Hong Kong on New Year's Day, calling for its government to accept all of their 5 demands, including greater democracy and independent proofs into police brutality. This time, there were yet more clashes and violence between police and demonstrators. Organizers say more than 1 million people participated in the rally, while police say the number was much smaller, just 60,000. Police said they arrested some 400 people for illegal assembly and carrying offensive weapons. They said protesters clad in all black broke off from the marches and attacked banks and ATM machines with hammers and Molotov cocktails. Police used pepper spray, tear gas, and water cannons to quell the protesters. The protesters' 5 demands also include the release of arrested demonstrators, its chief executive Carrie Lam to resignation, and more democratic elections, as well as the complete and formal withdrawal of the extradition bill.
And in particular for this year, we continue to tell the government and the world that people are not giving up and people will not get used to police violence, and we continue to ask for the 5 demands to be realized in Hong Kong.
A number of newly elected district politicians who support the demonstrators also attended the rally. Some have helped to collect donations for the movement. Protesters who have been violently demonstrating against recent U.S. airstrikes in Iraq have withdrawn from areas near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. This comes as American forces used tear gas to drive away the protesters, who mostly consist of Iranian-backed militias. Lee Seung-jae reports.
After 2 days of protests at the American embassy in the Iraqi capital, thousands of pro-Iranian protesters packed up and went home on Wednesday, ending a tense siege that had trapped a number of American diplomats in the building overnight. The protests started when members of Iranian-backed militias reacted angrily to deadly American airstrikes on their positions over the weekend. The increasingly violent attempts to breach the compound only came to an end when American forces fired tear gas to drive them back. Speaking to Fox News this week, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo offered his assessment of the protest, calling the mob Iranian-backed terrorists.
Well, what you saw was Iranian-backed terrorists. Many of them are individuals that have been designated terrorists by the United States and others, coming to the American embassy and posing a risk to American diplomats and personnel inside the embassy. You saw President Trump direct a quick, decisive, prudent response by making sure that we had all the resources necessary to keep our people safe and to secure the compound as well.
All this began when a rocket attack on an Iraqi military base last Friday killed an American contractor and wounded several American service members. The U.S. blamed the attack on Iraqi militia with ties to Iran. In response, American forces carried out airstrikes on 5 different sites on Sunday, killing dozens of terrorists from the Kataib Hezbollah terrorist organization and wounding more. With tensions still running high, and as a precautionary measure, U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper says about 750 American troops from a rapid response unit based out of Kuwait will be sent to the Gulf region. However, a U.S. official who spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity said a full brigade of about 4,000 soldiers may be deployed in the coming days. Since May last year, 14,000 U.S. troops have been deployed to the Gulf in response to concerns about Iran and its attacks on commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. 이승재, Arirang News.
Drug authorities in the U.S. plan to yank fruity-flavored e-cigarettes from shop shelves amid rising health concerns. According to U.S. media sources, the Food and Drug Administration is due to announce this week a sales ban on cartridge-based e-cigarettes that contain fruity flavors, which are especially popular with teenagers. But the ban will not apply to menthol and tobacco flavors. Open-tank vaping systems will also remain on the market. This comes as many have raised public health issues related to flavored e-cigarettes in recent months. A fire at a zoo in western Germany has killed more than 30 animals, including apes and monkeys. Police say Wednesday's blaze was likely sparked by paper sky lanterns that were launched nearby to celebrate the arrival of the new year. The fire caused an entire ape house to burn down, killing 5 orangutans, 2 gorillas, a chimpanzee, and several monkeys. Only 2 chimpanzees were rescued in time. Officials say many of the dead animals are close to extinction in the wild. Sky lanterns, which are mini hot air balloons made of paper and used in Asia for centuries, are illegal in most of Germany.
Now, we're about 36 hours into 2020 here in South Korea. It's the start of a brand new decade, but many of us are still reflecting back on 2019. Others have made their New Year's resolutions and are hopefully, anyway, still sticking to them. Choo Mi-ae took to the streets of Seoul to hear from the public here in South Korea about their thoughts on last year and their hopes and dreams for 2020.
2019 was eventful in terms of foreign policy, economy, and politics. But it also saw big changes for ordinary people in their own lives. For some, it was a start of a new job. For others, it was the year of wrapping things up and preparing for something new.
2019 was my beginning of my career, and I'd like to increase my potential in next year and start more business of my freelancing business.
저는 2019년에 고2로서 공부랑 이제 학교 생활하느라 좀 힘들었는데 2020년도에는 대학교도 가야 하고 졸업도 해야 되니까 조금 더 보람찬 생활을 하게 됐으면 좋겠어요.
저는 2019년에 새로 작가라는 장래희망을 갖게 돼가지고 새로 예체능 공부를 하게 됐는데 고3 때는 그 결실을 맺을 수 있으면 좋겠습니다.
With deepening economic difficulties, business owners say this year was especially tough. Young applicants looking for jobs also struggled as companies hired fewer people than last year. But some say they've overcome their hardships by looking at things from a different perspective.
올해 아무래도 경기가 어려우니까 일하는데 여러 가지 힘들었는데 그래도 뭐 올해는 뭐 아들 같은 경우는 새로 군대 가서 잘 적응하고 있고 뭐 둘째 딸 같은 경우는 또 대학도 잘 좋은 원하는 데를 가서 나름대로 좀 만족스러운 한 해였던 것 같습니다.
2019년에 취업 준비하면서 제 자신이 또 어떤 사람인지 좀 돌아보면서 좀 힘들기도 했지만 그래도 제 자신을 알게 돼서 되게 값진 시간들이었고 내년에는 좀 더 좀 활기차고 밝은 날들이 많았으면 좋겠다 생각합니다.
Others were upset about the current political situation and wish for the well-being of the country's economy and society as a whole.
정치가 안정됐으면 좋겠어요. 첫째 그게 저는 소망이고요. 외식도 줄이고
근데 외식을 많이 해야 경제는 돌아가잖아요. 근데 지금 이제 세금 문제 이런 게 많으니까 그런 게 자꾸 줄어들어요. 그게 조금 안타깝긴 하죠.
돼지들처럼 욕심이 많았던 해인 것 같습니다. 내년에 경자년에는 다산을 상징하는 주의 해니까는 생산성이 많은 그런 일들이 발생했으면 좋겠습니다. 다산 풍요로운 한 해가 되길 바라겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Hopes for a better tomorrow and dreams full of anticipation. Little wishes are piling up to open the door for a happy 2020 for all. 최정윤, Arirang News.
Now, if you're watching us in South Korea or have been here before, you'll already know what we are going to talk about. If you plan on coming here in the future, then you'll soon find out for yourself. Coffee shops. They are everywhere in South Korea, and that is no overstatement at all. You can often find 3, 4, 5 even within a 100-meter radius of each other, and more often than not, they're packed with customers all day and all night. And this kind of intense competition has led to some owners thinking outside the box and infusing some creative concepts into their shop so they can hopefully stand out from the crowd a bit. Jo Sung-min reports.
Coffee shops in Korea have become now highly sought-after venues where, ironically, coffee is not the main star. This cafe, located on the outskirts of Seoul, is literally a petting zoo with horses. Originally opened as a horseback riding facility, the owner transformed it into a cafe for families seeking to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. The cafe also offers horseback riding lessons for customers.
I like it because moms can have coffee while children spend time with animals. It's very quiet and relaxing, so it's a win-win for both kids and parents.
These customers are at a trending drawing cafe in downtown Seoul that's receiving a lot of attention lately as it offers the chance to enjoy a latte accompanied by a casual therapeutic experience through art. The owner of the business says the place aims at becoming an oasis for people who are searching a place to relax and relieve their stress.
The vibrant and vivid colors of this place give me comfort and help me relax.
People tell me they were able to get rid of their stress while spending 2 to 3 hours here painting.
Industry experts say diverse ideas and concepts are being applied to cafes, and they predict the trend to keep growing and evolving. Cho Sung-min, Arirang News.
Good morning. It was a bone-chilling start to the new year, but the cold has eased now. More bearable temperatures are on the cards today, with temperatures hovering way above the seasonal averages. But it's that ultra-fine dust again that will make us want to stay inside. Those of us, especially in western regions, will be smothered in toxic smog. Meanwhile, regions in the east will have to deal with dry conditions with a dry weather advisory being in place, so please be careful with anything that could start a fire. Sunny to partly cloudy skies will dominate the day. Afternoon highs will range from 3 to 11 degrees across the country. Seoul topping out at 4 degrees, Jeju topping out at 11 degrees this afternoon. The weather looks calm and promising for next few days. No extreme cold for the next 5 days, but do expect some winter precipitation early next week. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's where we're going to have to leave the news and weather for now on this Thursday morning here in Seoul. Stay tuned to Arirang TV. Plenty more coming up, including our next newscast at noon Korea time in around an hour and a half from now. So until then, goodbye.